Today we're going to be talking about comparing and ordering integers. And what that means is we want to look at those integers like we talked about before, that includes all of the numbers, the natural numbers we can count on our fingers, and 0, and then those positive whole numbers plus their opposites. So first, let's look at our page, comparing and ordering integers. Please make sure that you've put your name and the date or your roster number on the page if you have Miss Sissel. And let's look at our very first part of our notes here. So it says reading the number line. And you guys have probably seen a number line before. And most of you have seen a number line that starts at 0 and then moves on. But in this case, we're going to look at a number line that has both positive and negative numbers. So the first thing we need to talk about is the fact that on the number line, those numbers that are on the right of the 0 are going to become larger than 0. And then those numbers to the left of the number line are going to become smaller. So let's write that down. Those numbers to the right are going to be greater than 0, and those numbers to the left are less than 0. Next, we need to talk about what that means. So take a look at where it says become. There's 2 of them right underneath the number line. And if you look, you'll see that it's going to be some kind of sentence there. And that sentence or statement is going to be something becomes something. So those numbers on that left side are less than. So those numbers are numbers that their values become smaller. And the numbers to the right, since they are greater than 0, those values are becoming larger. So when you look at the 2 and think about the way your number line works, the numbers to the right are just like the ones we've always thought of. 1 is bigger than 0, and 2 is bigger than 1. 50 is bigger than 20. Now, on the other side, however, what we're looking at is that -1 is actually smaller than 0. And so then -2 is even smaller. So on the left side, those values get smaller and smaller. So a -50 is smaller than a -20. So those numbers on the right become positive. And those numbers on the left are what we call negatives. To locate these integers on the number line, let's take a look at what it says. And it tells us there's a 0 in the middle, and there are these numbers and those numbers. Well, these numbers over here on the left and those numbers over on the right, oops, excuse me, that was backwards, are positive and negatives. So we're just going to transfer. We're going to say positives and negatives again. So the positive numbers in that list, and look at them because you can tell the ones that don't have a minus sign are your positives. The ones that do have that little minus sign, those are your negatives. And let's add those numbers in. So where do you think the -7 would go? Is it going to be on the right in the positives or on the left with the negatives? And is it the smallest or is it the largest? Then compare that one to some of the others. And here you go. So as we look on our list here, we see that -7 is actually the closest to 0. It's only 7 spaces from 0, but it's negative, so it goes to the left. Then you have 14 and -14. So they're the same distance from 0, but they're in opposite positions. One is at 14 spots to the right of 0, and the other is 14 spots to the left of 0. Then we have -21 after the -14 because it is 21 spots from 0, but on the negative side. And then we have 28 and -28. And those are both 28 spaces from 0. However, they are -28 spaces to the left and a positive 28 spaces to the right. So, as you know, we have negatives, positives, we're good. But as you recall, there's also this little thing called an equal sign. I know, the dreaded equal sign, and what are those other two Pac-Man looking mouth things? However, what you're going to find is that it's very, very simple, and it will come back to you. Equal means equal. So 1 is equal to 1. 1/2 is equal to 0.5. Those are equal or equivalent. However, there's also greater than and less than. Remember, the larger number gets the larger side of the sign. So, 14 is what to a -7? Well, if we look on our number line, where we find 14, far to the right, knowing that that's a larger number than 0, and -7 is to the left of 0, which we know is smaller than 0. Therefore, 14 must be greater than -7. When we look at -14 and -28, we also can note that they are both to the left and smaller than 0, but as we get further away from 0, the numbers get smaller and smaller, which means that -14 is closer to 0 and is therefore larger. So -14 is greater than a -28. So what do you guys think then? -21 is what to 28? Is it going to be greater than, less than, or equal to? Let's try that one more time. What do you think it's going to be? -21 is greater than. No, less than. What do you guys think? Pick one. Everybody vote. Who thinks it's greater than? Okay, now who thinks it's less than? Okay, so it is less than 28 because -21 is to the left where it is smaller than 0, and 28 is to the right where it is larger than 0. Last one, -14 and -14. Who thinks it's greater than? Who thinks it's less than? All right, I'm going to throw it out there. Who thinks it's equal to? Very good, equal to. Because they are the same number, so they must be equal to each other. Next, let's talk about plotting the numbers and list from greatest to least. So we're going to go from the biggest number to the smallest number. Which one is the biggest number on our list? Well, first, I guess if we're going to go biggest, we need to look at what's on the right of 0 to start. And we know that only positives are to the right. So that takes out the -6, -3, -2, and -1. So our options are 1, 2, 5, and 3. Which one's the biggest? Well, of course it's 5. So 5, and then the next largest would be 3, and so on until we get down and we can see that we would put them in the 5, 3, 2, right? Then we have a 0, and then we go -1, -2, -6. Don't forget the -3. Oops, forgot to put -3 on here. There is a -3 right in the middle there, right next to -2. And then if we put them in order from greatest to smallest, we can copy our number line. 5, 3, 2, 0, -1, -2, -3, -6. Sorry about that. That is a typo. Next, give you guys a second. All right, let's move on. So now let's list from least to greatest. So we're going to go in the other order. So what number would be way, 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 way far to the left? So it's not going to be a positive number if we have negative numbers. And then it's going to be the absolute furthest away from 0 that we can get. Now, -2 is only 2 spots away from 0. And -39 is only 39 spots away from 0. So -60 is our furthest from 0. So if we start with our smallest, least number, we're going to start with -60. And then we're going to work our way back to the right. And that's going to give us okay, there we go. That's going to give us -60, -39, -2, 10, 14, 23, and 59. Now, last list, and let's see how you do, but list from greatest to least. So what's the biggest number to the smallest number? Think about it. Make your guess. Which one do you think is the largest number, the greatest number? Write them down. I'll give you just a second. All right, let's check and see if you got them right. So we have 29, 17, -17, and then -29. So notice that the two 17s are closer to the center and the two 29s are on the outside. Imagine that 0 is in there 17 spots away from both of those 17s. And so those numbers are going outward. And as they go outward, the symbol that we use grows larger, but the value grows smaller. All right, guys, let's take our page and turn it over and do our guided practice now. Okay, so let's look at the back side. And now what we have is which integer on the number line below has the smallest value. And so we want to do is we want to decide -36, 0, 4, or a -12. Which one of these do you think is going to be the smallest value? So the best way for us to decide that is to go ahead and graph them onto our number line and see where they go. So go ahead and place each of those numbers on your number line. So we know that to the left is smaller, and to the right is our larger values. So if you'll graph those, figure out where they are, just put a dot where you think it might fall. So I see -36, and then we want to put the 0 where 0, put a dot on it and mark it. And then we want to find 4 and then -12. So you're just going to put a little dot on there to decide where it is. And now which one is the smallest? Okay, well we know that those positive numbers are definitely not smaller than 0, and negative numbers are smaller than 0. So now we're down to A or D. All right, who thinks it's A? And who thinks it's D? All right, so let's take a look and see. It is A. Very good. Okay, so let's move on to the second one. And it says, which list includes integers on the number line below in order from greatest to least? So using our number line, which of these sets of numbers here shows us the numbers from the largest, the greatest number, to the smallest or least number? All right, so let's start off with A, -36, -25, -18, -8. Okay, B, -4, -7, -20, -25. Okay, and C is a -32, a -12, -8, and -28. And then we have -24, -16, -8, and 0. So let's look for where are they on our number line. We want the largest number to the smallest number. Keep in mind that when we go to the left, the numbers are smaller. And when we go to the right, the numbers are larger. So it looks like B. Because, and if you'll notice, because it's the one showing from the largest number to the smallest number, or greatest to least. All right, next. Which list shows the temperature in order from coldest to warmest in degrees of Fahrenheit? So the first thing we want to do is we want to take a look at this thermometer. And on a thermometer, it's a little bit different than a number line. Instead of going right and left, thermometers go up and down. Now, in my class, I know we've talked about this once before, that as the temperatures get colder, the temperature drops. Those are going to be our negative numbers, because when temperatures get higher and it gets warmer, then those temperatures are our positive numbers. So we can see here, there we go. Negative temperatures are colder than positive temperatures. And so therefore, C is our answer. Take a look at those, review them. You may color in your notes if you would like. And when you're all finished, Make sure to get your math practice finished